Hi, fashion dolls. Welcome to another episode of Style by Stevie. I'm your hostess, Miss Stevie. Let's do something a little different today. I had to introduce myself for those of you who do not know. The Queen is back. Cowboy Carter, the tour. Fashion Dolls Queen Bee is absolutely killing it. So, as an homage to Beyonce, I had to go back into my blonde. But let's get into it with our very special guest today. Hi, Al. Our very special guest is an actor and producer, and he's a Capricorn, December 27th, and I'm super excited to have him here in the dollhouse with me. Please join me as we welcome Dr. Justin Terry Smith, Fashion Dolls, to the dollhouse. Hopefully it should work. Hopefully it should work this time. Let me try. Let me see what's going on today with IG. And yes, I fell asleep again on the panel. Make sure y'all go and subscribe to Al Tit for Tat. Hi, Germano. Hi. Hi, stranger. Hi, handsome. Hi, hi, hi. Welcome if you're just coming in. This also makes 789. This makes show 789. We are well off on the road to 800 interviews, y'all. And I want to say thank y'all so much for your love and unconditional support. As I mentioned in the beginning, Queen Bee is back on tour and she is killing it. It is electrifying. The costume changes, everything. So, as an homage to Beyonce, I had to go back to blonde. Yesterday, I had black hair, if I'm not mistaken. I think I had black hair, but it had a little bit of highlights in it. But I said, as an homage to Queen Bee, I had to go back to my blonde, definitely. All right, let's try now. Shout outs to my brother K Tukes. Make sure y'all go and check out the K Tukes spot. Definitely. Give it a minute while I add my very special guest. Let me try again. And y'all make sure y'all go and subscribe to Al Tit for Tat. Tit for Tat. Conscious TV just recently. There we are.
Hi.
Hello.
Thank
Welcome to the Dollhouse, handsome. It is such a pleasure to have you
you
here.
very much. It's an honor to be here.
Yes, yes. So before we kick off this interview, how has 2025 been for you so far?
I can say it's been a blessing because, of all the things that are going on in our society right now. It's been hard for a lot of us. I mean, I can say that for me, um, I've been able to dodge some of the bullets that have been thrown my way, but, here we are persevering. And, when it comes to our people, we always survive, we always thrive. So here we are. And, I
Absolutely.
love the hair. I love the idea, like, yeah. So what I'm going to do for you is put on my
Ah!
cowboy hat.
Thank you, my love. Yes, yes,
You're
yes. Y'all know
welcome.
I love Queen Bee. And the tour is back. Queen Bee, Cowboy Carter. I'm pretty sure y'all have seen some of the costumes. Blue Ivy. Uh, her other daughter was out there as well, too. I mean, y'all need to go and check it out. It's electrifying. So she is back. The Queen is back, and she's killing the performances. Welcome if you're just coming in. We are here with Dr. Justin Terry Smith. Now, let's start from the beginning. Now, you were born in Columbia, Maryland, and you are also a Capricorn, December
Yes.
27th. So tell us, what was it like for you growing up in Columbia, Maryland?
So I was born in Columbia, Maryland, but I grew up in Silver Spring, Maryland, which is not far. But the thing is, growing up in Silver Spring, Maryland, it's almost like a privilege. Like you see Real Housewives of Potomac. So like Potomac is not far from Silver Spring. It's like literally two cities away, two cities next to each other. So it's not as if, I didn't grow up with a silver spoon in my mouth and somewhat I did have a lot of social economic privilege compared to some other people. So I mean, and I definitely want to say thank you to my parents because, without them, I wouldn't have had those opportunities brought to me.
Yes, 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 yes. Now you are the second child to two federal workers. Your parents, your family worked there.
Hmm.
So what was that like growing up with your family? Yeah.
I mean, it was very interesting, especially being the second child. So, like the stereotype goes is the first child is the example. Like, my older brother definitely was the example, had that pressure kind of like somewhat not really put on him by my parents, but it was kind of society's norm. And of course, I'm the second child, right? So I could juggle knives, I could like, paint on the walls, like, and like, oh, that's okay, he's just being creative. That's okay, he's just being himself. Let him be himself. And of course, but if my brother did that, they would have whooped his behind. So, for me, I always kind of grew up like being the artsy one and kind of I was in band. I played the saxophone, the trombone, the tuba, the trumpet. So I often like, loved it. I stuck with the alto sax for a very long time until my college years. And I loved being behind the scenes. Like I remember I loved being a technical person in theater, right? But I felt like I wanted to be more in on stage than behind the stage when I was younger. And I started out, I went to a private school called Friends Elementary, and it's a Quaker school and it's a private school. Even though I'm not a Quaker, I still went there. And so we had this acting slash mime class, and the mime instructor who they brought in said Justin is the best in the class, and I want to work with him to do an end of year kind of mime show for the whole school. And I ended up not doing it because I just said, I don't feel like being put on the stage like that right now. Like, I'm a little shy. When I grew up, I wasn't the slimmest kid, but I was kind of like a little bit more bulkier and thicker. And so a lot of that had to do with self-esteem issues and things like that when I was growing up. But, eventually, I kind of, in middle school, I decided, I'm like, I want to be on stage. But my father, in his infinite wisdom, decided that that would not be a good idea because he actually, and I quote, said to me, I don't want you asking me for, I didn't want you asking me for rent money every month being a starving artist. Because it's nice in theory, right? You're like, I'm a starving
Yeah.
artist. But, honestly, we all get tired of eating ramen noodles every day. So, we said, no, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna have a career in public health and do this and make my money. But also, as I got older, I found more leeway to be able to act, to be able to produce. And I said, oh, I really like this. This is really what I wanna, like, this is my passion. And I, even though in middle school I started out on stage, I stopped for a while. And I realized that, as I got older, I had time and room to do it. I still had that passion. So I was able to do it at a later age, and it's never too late. Like I'm 45 years old, and it's never too late.
Absolutely. And you're a few years ahead of me. I'm 31. And with us both having this growing up structured, having our families there. Speaking of structure, you also at 19 years old, you joined the Air Force, the US Air Force. So what was yes, I've done my research, honey.
Yeah,
I
you
know.
really did. I
Oh,
was like, I was like, what? How did she know about my brother?
what was that experience like for you joining the Air Force? And salute to you and thank you for your contribution as well.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. So when I joined the Air Force, it was under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And that was an awful policy. It was just really hurtful to a lot of us in the LGBTQ community.
Yes.
Because what happened was when I was in the military, I actually enjoyed my experience. I really did enjoy my Air Force experience. I really did like it until something happened to me, until I was sexually assaulted.
I'm
And
sorry.
that's okay. And I was in
Ooh,
DC. I was at a club. And what happened was I went on a date with this gentleman months ago, months ago. And, um, he said, well, what can we get a bite to eat after the club? And I said, of course, because I'm hungry. So he got in my car, we drove. And so what happened was he said, well, let me stop at my house because I have to get more money. And I said, okay, no problem. And at that time, I was 21. I was still kind of naive. And so we drove to this place and it seemed a little vacant, like it seemed really dark. And he got back in the car, took a knife out and said to me, kiss me. And I said, no. And so he then dug the knife a little deeper. And then so basically he raped me in my car. I ran, after struggling with the car keys, and I got the car keys from him and I ran out of the car. Ran in Southeast, this is in Southeast DC in the early 2000s. And you have to understand, Southeast DC in the early 2000s, where I was at least, it was run down. There were boarded up houses everywhere. I was knocking at people's doors asking for help, and they were not definitely coming to the door. It's Southeast. You never know what you're going to get. So I kept running. And I noticed he was running after me, but I ran track and cross country in high school. So all those skills kicked in. And eventually outran him and made it to a metro bus stop. And the metro driver looked at me. He said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "No, I was just attacked." He goes, "Well, the police station is on my way to on my route, so I'm going to drop you off there. No need to pay. Just I got you." I said, "Okay." So got to the police station. Was questioned about what happened. Went to Howard University Hospital for a rape kit, which was very painful.
Um, Justin, your sound went out.
Is that better?
Yes, when you get a call, it completely knocks the audio out. Yeah,
Okay, so I didn't
but you're
get a
back.
call. Something happened. It was just like something notification, but I will. Do you remember what I stopped?
You were saying about going to get the kit, and I'm gonna say great. We're gonna say great because this will be posted on YouTube. So go ahead. I'm
Got it.
sorry.
Sorry about that. So I had to go to the get a grape kit, and so then had to go back into the military, and I couldn't process because if I would have said, "Hey, this happened to me," and they would have questioned me and like, "Why were you at this club in the first place? Why were you here in the first place? Why? What is going on with you? Why were you at this place that is known as a homosexual hangout?" So like, it was kind of like I couldn't say anything, and for 20 years I didn't. So I
Wow.
kept that inside for 20 years. And so when I went back to the VA, I said, "Hey, this happened to me. This happened to me." And they said, "Okay, well, let's investigate. I had to track down a police report. I had to track down the grape kit. I had to track down a person who was there." And so I had to do all those things. And when I did that, I submitted the paperwork and I went from 10% disability to 100 straight up off the bat. And I got a lot of benefits now from the VA. So I have free healthcare, no copays, $4,000 a month that I get every month for the rest of my life that is non-taxable. All my student loans were forgiven. So, as you're right, you said Dr. Justin Terry Smith, that was not a cheap degree to get. So all those things have been wiped away from my record.
Look at God. And now we're seeing other people in our community, in the queer community, battle with the same thing.
Hmm.
And this is coming from me as a transgender black woman. We're
Hmm.
seeing rights for us in the military being rolled back from this particular administration. Not to
Right.
dive too political, because I did that yesterday. I tore his ass up yesterday for how he showed out at that funeral for Pope Francis. That
Yeah.
really had me. But these are the things that we have had to fight for to get into these spaces, to get into these rooms. What advice would you tell to someone who is encountering the same situation as far as being their authentic selves? And I've had this conversation yesterday with my colleagues, Al Tipatat, shout outs to him, Kwame Speaks also. I see you, Deshaun, I see all of you, all of my colleagues who are basically in the queer community, and we're all together as a unit together,
Hmm.
working together, figuring out ways that we can fight against everything that this administration is doing. What advice would you give to someone who is who has served in the military and they feel like their rights are not being recognized or completely erased, just their existence alone?
There are several ways to fight a battle, right? But there's only one way to win the war. So my
Yes.
thing is like when you fight a battle, you have to expect sometimes you're going to win some, sometimes you're going to lose some. But if you keep fighting the good fight, you're going to eventually win. So my thing is like my advice to you is keep fighting. Do not give up. Because here's the thing, when you give up on this, it for me at least, it in my eyes, if I was to give up on this, I would have given up on everybody in my community that has gone through the same thing that I went through. So I said, I'm not giving up on this. So what I did was just to give you some advice on top of that, if you do not know this, there are many organizations that actually will back you up. So I went through the disabled,
ACLU and so many others. Yes.
right, but I went through the Disabled American Veterans. And what they did for me, they helped me get all my files together. They helped me get all my claims together. I mean, you have to find the chapter in your state and for you to be able to do this. So for me, I live in New Mexico now. I moved here 4 years ago. I bought 80 acres of land and I live in a 4 bedroom house with a pool and everything else and a private gym. I am doing my thing. So I actually found this out, and I'll tell you how I found this out. I was in a film called Serve with Pride. Serve with Pride highlights LGBTQ people who served under Don't Ask, Don't Tell. And so when veterans get together, we talk about everything and anything. So we talk about what's your disability? Like what's your percentage? Like, right? And people normally are like very private about that, but when you're a veteran and you're another veteran, you kind of it just comes out. So I told my friend, I said, I have 10% disability. He said, 10% after what you just told us happened to you?
Right.
He said, let me get you in touch with the Disabled American Veterans chapter in your state. And because of that film, I realized that I could have gotten this 20 years ago, and I didn't even realize it. So what I say to you is definitely be informed. Be informed. Get your resources together. I know a lot of us don't think that we have anybody that has our back. We don't see anybody like us that actually has been successful in being able to fight the good fight for themselves. But here I am, a Black Jewish man. So, here I am telling you, as someone that may look like you, that this can happen.
And there's my colleague Bubs the God. Shout outs to him. I just was talking about him. We did a panel yesterday and we had this discussion where we
Hmm.
literally were talking about our rights being erased, and especially gender norms. Gender
Hmm.
norms is a social construct, and we know in the queer community it's mask, it's film, it's all of these different things. Those were some
Hmm.
of the topics that we discussed yesterday. But this one here, again, my heart goes to you for being able to be vulnerable to share that story. I had no idea that you were going to share that story, but this can help people who are also in the queer community who have served and fought in this country.
Hmm.
And they feel like their rights are taken away from them, which we're seeing a lot of things being rolled back from this administration. And as Kwame Speaks says, shout outs to Kwame Speaks, the Source Pyro Media Network, make sure that you're going and supporting Black queer spaces. 100%. Make sure you're going and supporting each and every one of us. As I stated yesterday with Darren and also Poetic Justice, I want to make
Hmm.
sure that everybody's included.
Hmm.
So, what other advice and nuggets would you give to people, Black queer people, on making sure that their voices are heard and amplified more than ever?
So this is one of the things is that I've encountered from a lot of people when I say I've moved to New Mexico, right? I moved to New Mexico, and they're like, "Got any black people there? Got any black people there?" I don't understand. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you do that? Well, here's the thing, right? So I always say this. I said it always starts with one. So if you don't see any black people in a space, why are you not occupying that space? Why are you not occupying that space? Because when I see you occupying that space, I'm going to come over to that space and say, okay, this is a safe space and then more people will come. So when I moved to New Mexico, people were like, well, I don't know about that. It's a red state. And I'm like, no, actually, it's a blue state. So like people really don't know that New Mexico is a blue state. And then also on top of that, they're like, oh, well, there's a lot of white people there. I'm like, actually, there's more Latino people here than white people, and there's more indigenous people here. as well. So it's kind of like people don't really get that or understand that when I say expand your minds to different cultures and things that you're not used to, because you may find that you are even more comfortable being in that space than you were in the space that you were in. For example, I think it was Jimmy Carter that came up with the idea of the projects, right? I think it was Carter. I'm not really sure. Don't quote me on that. And I don't want to get in trouble. So, so, he said, oh, if these people are around each other, then they're going to thrive and succeed. Well, we know
Yes.
that that did not happen, right? So because all we saw were each other, we did not see other Black people that were being successful, that were actually coming out of the projects and actually doing something that we were like, oh, that's in my hopes and dreams. I should be doing that. That's what I want to do. No, we became stagnant. A lot of us did. And it's sad that way because it's like, okay, we were stuck here. And again, somebody put us here. It's almost like, well, that sounds familiar. Somebody took us from another place, put us in another place, and expected us to thrive. Wow. How does history repeat itself? And it always does.
And that is what shout outs to Germano Toussaint. He says FDR, Franklin,
Was it Roosevelt?
yes, he
I stand corrected.
won. And he is a playwright and composer. So the entire
Oh.
audience is full of Black queer collectives. You've got Bubs the God, you've got Jamaica Toussaint. It's everybody here showing mad love and support, and this is what it looks like. Again, this is a safe space. When I created Style by Stevie, I wanted every voice to be included, straight, gay, bi, and that's a whole nother conversation about that my colleague Bubs the God touched on his platform. Um, in the red pill spaces, shall I say, that there are men who believe that, oh, you can't be bi. No, you can't be bi. You're gay. How are you going to try to tell someone what their sexuality is? It's like we're always in a system where they're trying to control us and tell us, hey, you're not welcomed here. You can't use the bathroom here. We're going to roll
Yeah.
back your rights. We don't want you in the military. We don't want you to learn about these things. So therefore, we're going to push it out of the school and we're going to call it DEI because we
Mhm.
know it's the radical Marxist leftists. That's
And
what
the
we're
fact
calling
and the
this.
and the
That's
and the
exactly what it is.
interesting thing about that is the group that actually has more advantage with DEIs is white women. And
Hello.
it's crazy because they have taken more advantage of DUIs than any other demographic. So the thing is, what's interesting is that a lot of them voted the way that they voted, and then now this is rolling back on them now. So it's like, okay, so we told you, we told you, but you were not listening to us. Like a lot of times when we want to be heard, majorities don't listen to minorities, and we're tired of it, and we're just like, why? This is the reason why. And there was I'm not going to go as far as to say this person's name because I'm trying to not burn bridges here, especially not in the industry that I'm in. But this person on this film that I was trying to get to listen to me as a black man did not. And I pulled out of the film and I said, you don't need me. Nope, you do not need me. And, I said, okay, no problem. I had to pull out of the film because I said, if you're not going to listen to me as a black man telling you that this particular scene is not right, then how can you create a safe space for me on your set? You can't. You can't. So it's kind of like, no, I'm out. I'm good. I mean, I'm good. So my thing is like I had to kind of really kind of reassess myself and what I'm willing to put up with, what my boundaries are as an actor. And I said, you know what? I don't know if I can do this. And I have leeway to say no. I'm like, you know what? There's going to be something else that comes along that's going to be better, for me as a person, better. It's going to make me feel better about being a part of the project. So as of right now, I do have my own documentary that I'm doing as a producer. And the thing is, the documentary is called A Life for Justin. The documentary is literally taking the camera and putting it on myself because here's the thing, you can look at me and say he's got his stuff together, right? He's got his stuff together, like he's good, like look at him, he's thriving, he's surviving. That did not go without struggle. That still doesn't go without struggle, right? I have PTSD. I have to have a lot of the doors in my house open. I have to have a lot of the things that a lot of people don't understand. Like when I go to a restaurant, the first thing I'm looking for is a booth. I don't want to sit at at a table with individual chairs. I want to sit at a booth. And the thing is, what I'll do is I'll make sure my back is to the wall so I can see everybody. I'll make sure I know where the exit doors are in every restaurant that I go and sit in. Those kind of things people don't get. They just don't understand them because a lot of people don't have experience with PTSD. They don't have experience with people who have PTSD. And the thing is there's levels, right? There's levels of PTSD. There's like I can be around fireworks and be fine because my PTSD doesn't come from that. Doesn't come from loud explosions around me. So it's a lot of times that's what I thought PTSD was as a military person, is that, oh, it's a combat thing, like, and that's what PTSD is. And I said, no, 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 no. I had no idea I had PTSD for years. No idea.
Right. And I'm gonna go back to what you just said about the film producer,
Hmm.
telling you you said spoken out and you were very vocal about it, saying,
Hmm.
"Hey, you said, okay, this is a little bit too much for me, and this is a black man. You're not respecting my boundaries." This
Hmm.
is exactly what our girl T.S. Madison was talking about: creating your
Love
own
her. Oh my
space.
God.
What I love about her is how unapologetic, and I've had the honor of
Yes.
interviewing Craig and Chi Chi in the past. That was past
Oh my
seasons.
God.
I've had the honor of sitting with them both. But this is what she was saying when she got her show on WeTV. She's the first black trans woman to have her
Hmm.
television show and opened the door for women like myself and others.
Hmm.
It was her and
Hmm.
Hope Giselle and Laverne Cox, all three of them, who have Janet Mock as well, and Amaya Scott. All of these women have opened the door so that you could see a Miss Stevie, so that you could see
Hmm.
other trans black women host a
Hmm.
platform. And there are some women who have passing privilege. That's another thing she touched on as well too.
For sure.
So having these spaces to be able to tell our stories. This is what Craig and Madison were saying on their show, making sure, because she said she didn't want anybody who was not black filming her show. She wanted to make sure that everybody who was producing her show was black.
Hmm.
I was like,
Hmm.
go ahead, Madison. I'm not going to do anything with nobody who doesn't know my story better than me, my people,
Hmm.
black people. Better yet,
Hmm.
black trans women. We know
Hmm.
our stories. And MJ
Hmm.
Rodriguez touched on that as well too. If you want to hire a biological actress to portray me in a story, make it fair across the board. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Like, if they can play our roles, let us play their
Thank
roles.
you.
And it was
Yeah.
war in MJ Rodriguez, and they were, the time polls was going on, and they were talking about that. So make it fair. Nobody can tell our stories in the queer community better than us.
Hmm.
And it's the erasure. What we're seeing right now is, oh, they don't want the drag queens and the gays reading to the kids. When it's not us that's the problem. It's more so it's a you problem. And that's
Right.
how they won this election, based off of fear. It's the drag queens and the queers and the trans. The boogie, they're the boogie, we're the boogeymans.
Hmm.
No, no. It's not us that you
Right.
should be concerned and worried about.
Right.
What you should be worried about is how this administration is taking your 401k plans. What you should be worried about is how this fool from South Africa, I'm not even going to give him any clout on my platform, has our data. That's what we should be worried about. What you should be worried about, and it's not trans women using the bathroom, and it's not gay
Mm-mm.
people and drag queens reading to your kids. Laverne Cox said it beautifully on The View, and I'm going to keep quoting her. You are worried about the wrong 1%.
Yeah.
You're worried about the wrong 1%.
Yeah.
It's not us that's causing the problem. It's more so it's a you problem, because your transphobia, your racism, your bigotry would not absolve you.
Right.
Y'all voted
Right.
to hurt queer people, you voted to hurt black people.
Hmm.
And at the end of the day, when you realize you're not hurting us, you're also hurting yourself in the process, what good is it going to do?
Right.
And
Right.
that's what I want a lot of people to realize. Your bigotry will not absolve you. So that's why it's important that we continue to tell our stories. And I commend you, Doctor, for being able to share your story, being able to be vulnerable, being
Thank
able
you.
to share these bits and pieces of yourself. Because a lot of people in the queer community, there was a story where a young kid was bullied by his teacher and he took his life.
I,
It's
yeah.
everywhere. We've seen that story. And it just goes to show you, Nigel Shelby is another example. Black, gay teenager took
Yeah.
his own life, 12 years old in the school bathroom.
Yeah.
And it just goes to show you that the next generation is watching us and
Oh
that it's
yeah.
important that they have some sort of representation to see.
Yeah.
So again, when I created Style by Stevie, I said I want to include everybody. And the big question that I always get is, why does she call it the dollhouse? Well, because I am the queen. I am the queen of fashion, honey. So one thing about me, I'm gonna give you a look, and when I'm dressing you, I don't just dress you looking fierce.
Mhm.
I'm dressing you with love. I'm dressing you with an open heart. I'm dressing you as saying, come on in, sit down, drink some champagne, drink some wine, drink coffee, whatever you like.
Mhm.
I'll give you something to eat too. Let's have a good conversation.
Oh yeah.
That's what you're getting in the dollhouse when you come in, and everybody gets comfortable, and it's just like a family here. So I formed my tribe of people. They need to be
Mhm.
known, but what they need to do is start making out. Listen, that's another thing. Therapy. There's nothing wrong with normalizing therapy. In the Black community, for so long, we have been taught that mental health, oh, it's something wrong with them. Let's talk, sweep it up under the rug.
Mhm.
Don't talk about it.
Mhm.
Something wrong with it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, when I like how you said that if the younger generation is watching, right? So I have two children, right? They both identify under the LGBTQ umbrella, right? So the thing is, when we adopted them, they were a little older. But the thing is, they had such a home life that wasn't. I want to be very sensitive about this. Their home life was not safe for them at that time. So we took them in and we legally adopted them. Like they're ours, right? So the thing is, of course, like they needed to see examples of LGBTQ persons living and thriving. So when my husband, who's also a doctor, and me decided, like they were like, well, we don't think we want to go to school that long. And I said, well, you don't have to go to school that long. You just have to be happy about what you're doing and where you're doing it. That's all. That's all. But just be happy with what you're doing and where you're doing it. So, for us, shout outs to both of them, Tavis and London. I love you both. When they got older, we were like, okay, so do you want to go to college? No. Do you want to do the military? No. Okay, but you have to do something. Like, like we're those kind of parents, like you can't just sit around here and do nothing. So, they eventually matriculated out of the house and did their own thing. And now they're doing really well. I'm so proud of them for what they're doing right now. I'm just like so, looking at management positions and their industry. I'm just like, you know what? I'm I'm blessed and I'm happy. And every single time I think about them, like I try not to like get that, because I'm getting it now and I can tell I'm trying to choke it back a little bit. I'm trying to like the tears come up and I'm like, because I'm so proud of
Yeah,
who they are.
again, this is a safe space, doctor. This is a safe space. Let it out. And I'm
Thank
going to do
you.
something. Bub, if you want to come up, you and Tit for Tat, you are more than welcome to ask the doctor some questions, because
Oh,
these are
please.
conversations that I've also had with my colleagues as well, too, about how queer people, Bubs was saying, well, I want to have a family. Not me. I got a fur baby. So I am a childless dog lady, since that was a whole thing. Another thing that they talked about in the
Got
lecture as
you.
well too, is that they don't want queer people having families. But listen, queer people have families. We are being productive out here,
Oh,
just as any
oh
other
yeah.
normal person. And we should be treated with the same upright decency as anybody else, not a second class citizen. And that is what they are doing now,
Hmm.
currently, by saying, hey, we're going to erase this. We're going to take away this. We don't want trans women playing in sports. And he did that at an event. And he was like, if you don't, I'm going to cut your funding. Listen, she
Yeah.
said, I'll see you in court. I'll see you in court. The man is racking up lawsuits left and right. The ACLU and so many other organizations, nonprofits, grassroots are not playing with him.
Hmm.
And it goes back to what Dr. Justin just said, which is there are so many organizations that are out here helping people do the work.
Hmm.
Form your group, form your tribe. Make sure that you are being vigilant to everything. But that's the weird part. And I just showed you a video of a white man sitting down with his dude saying, we're all gay, gay men should be celibate, with married with a woman and die a baby. That's not the case for everybody. Not everybody wants to be married.
Right.
Not everybody wants to be married to a woman. Let people
Right.
love who they love authentically. And I
Right.
don't understand what's the issue with letting people love who they love authentically. Did you wake up one morning and say, hey, I want to be straight? It's the beauty
It's
of having options.
so
Doctor, I'm
actually, I like
sorry.
how you, that's okay. No, no. I like how you went into therapy, like normalized therapy, because I'm a clinical mental health counseling. That is my second master's, right? So I have two masters and a doctorate. That is my second master's, right? And I definitely wanted to make sure that people see that, of course, I am a black, bi, Jewish, HIV positive uh, therapist. So my thing is like, I definitely am a veteran. So I definitely look at those different demographics that I actually represent. And I'm trying to make sure that they see me. They see that, oh, he's a black therapist. I want a black therapist who knows what it means to be a part of the black experience. I want a Jewish therapist because I know what he means when it comes to being Jewish, and I know what that means for him. And that means the same thing for me. I know what it means to being LGBTQ, even though we all have our different experiences. Like, I will never have the experience of a trans woman. Like, I know this, right? However, I'm very sensitive to those things. So I'm like, yes, I'm a safe space. Come here if you want to talk, if you want to engage, right? So like also military veterans, big one for me, right? So it's like I understand, like, sometimes people don't get it, right? They're just like, oh, he's weird. I'm like, no, I think he might suffer from PTSD, and there's certain things that we can help him with. So those things, like when it comes to, you can have PTSD comes in different forms for Black people, for Jewish people, for LGBTQ folk, for veterans. And I always say, I'm here. Please, if you need to engage, let me know. Go to my website, coachpositive.com, where me and my husband have our own practice. So the thing is also, he's a veteran as well. So it's like, he's Army, so, you know, but, so I can say that as being an Air Force person, but, that's our thing about our different branches. But, we definitely have our own practice, and we have our coaching model, and we have a counseling model. So the thing is, we actually, when the person comes to our practice, we analyze what they might be coming in for. We say, okay, we think the best match for you is the coaching model. We think the best match for you is the counseling model. And the thing is, of course, based on what those issues may be, or what category they may fit in, you may either see me or my husband. I have a human sexuality certificate, right? So I'm technically a sex therapist or a sexologist. So if it has anything to do with that, I probably might.
Hello.
You'll probably be seeing me. So the thing is, of course, I have a lot of different aspects of my own sexuality, of things like that, where I have a lot of experience. I was Mr. Maryland Leather 2010. So like a lot of things that I have, like a lot of communities, like the leather community, I'm very big in. So especially my shout out to my guys in Onyx in every chapter around the country, because we are in almost every part of the country now. So we're almost the biggest leather community. We are the biggest leather organization in the country. So shout outs to all of you. Yeah,
And we've got some questions. Let me go through some comments. My
sure.
colleague Bubs the God asked, and dragon fly into the night sky. She says, I personally don't care about a person's sexuality. I care about children being in a loving home. A
Oh,
word, girl.
definitely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And my colleague Bubs asked, why do you believe that a lot of Black people reject therapy?
Ooh, ooh, because I think it's a white thing. A lot of them, we've been brought up to think that therapy is a white person's thing.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. And it's not only just black people, it's also the Latino community as well.
Hmm.
We reject that because also on top of that, we think that that is a fragile thing for you to say, oh, he's weak, he has to go to therapy, or it's a it's something about our masculinity as well, especially being a man. Like I can take care of my own stuff. Like a lot, I have to be a man. I have to exert myself, meaning I can't go to therapy because I'm supposed to be taking care of this by myself because I'm man enough to do it myself. And the thing is, no, that is such not the case in a lot of ways, because what happens is, and I see this a lot, what happens is if a man or even a person, but like let's just say a man, right, decides, hey, I'm going to take care of this myself. So what happens is they don't talk to anyone. So they keep all those things inside. They keep all those things and it keeps coming in, keeps coming in, keeps coming in. And what happens when you shake a Pepsi bottle or you shake what happens? It explodes,
Yeah.
right? And it explodes in so many different ways, right? And a lot of those things are um, maybe hurtful to themselves physically, and I don't want to, because I know that you're going to post this somewhere else, so I don't really know
Yeah.
how to verbalize that. But the thing is, a lot of the times we think it's a message to our manhood. We think, oh, well, I should be able to take care of this because I'm a man. And a lot of times, if you're a person of color, you think this is a white person's thing. Going to therapy is a white thing. You reject it, you reject it, you reject it. But the thing is, the only person that you're hurting is yourself. That's the only person that you're hurting. Except for if you do have family around you, you could be hurting them as well.
The cycle of toxic masculinity in the black community is definitely, it spreads like poison, and it goes
Mm-hmm.
from generation to generation.
Mm-hmm.
That cycle of man up, don't cry, you hold,
Mm-hmm.
suck it up. If you cry or you scrape your knee, the first reaction is pain.
Yeah.
You bleed a little bit, and your mother comes and kiss the boo boo. But you
Mm-hmm.
have your dad, and that's the situation with me. My father doesn't know how to be sensitive. My
Mm-hmm.
mother knows how to be sensitive and nurturing, and I think I get that more so with her
Mm-hmm.
than anything. And with him growing
Mm-hmm.
up in the Marines, it was always straighten up,
Ooh.
do this real quick in that type of manner, very
Yeah.
aggressive. But my
Yeah.
mother, very nurturing, very patient, very kind. But she's a Libra, so I think I get that firecracker spirit, that feisty spirit from her. I'm a
Mm-hmm.
Scorpio, so we
Mm-hmm.
sometimes bump heads. We're two powerful
Oh yeah.
women. But one thing I can say for certain is that's in any black household. The mother will be there to nurture you, and we've seen it with Michael Jackson growing up with
Mm-hmm.
his story, but how the
Oh yeah.
mother was the nurturer and how the father was very aggressive,
Mm-hmm.
and just their upbringing, that hyper masculinity, and we see it projected in films like Moonlight. Moonlight was a beautiful
Yes.
film,
Love that film.
and I wish people would talk about that film more and more, and how it talked about black men being able to be vulnerable, being
Vulnerable.
able to find. We talk about soft girl era, but black men being able to be in their soft boy era,
Mm-hmm.
being able to show affection to one another, being able to find a safe space to be there
Mm-hmm.
with one another. These are two
Mm-hmm.
classmates or two childhood friends growing up, and they reconnected. And
Yeah.
just to see them bond and embrace, I can't give the whole film away at the end, but
Yeah.
it's very beautiful.
Yeah.
And we need to see more of that in real life. So
Mm-hmm.
to see more and more black men pour into each other, we're seeing that now more than ever.
Mm-hmm.
We're seeing black men come together. And it's in the spaces like the barber shops. Of course, that's there. Even though that is a hotbed sometimes for homophobia. Because
Mm-hmm.
anybody in the queer community, we've had nightmares of going to the barbershop because
Oh
it's
yeah.
like the conversation.
Oh yeah.
The
I
first
used to be
thing they
scared.
bring out is your sexuality. Way before I
Oh yeah.
became Miss Stevie, I hated going to the barbershops. Way before that, I hate sitting in and hearing these guys' conversations. I'm just like,
Yep.
Lord, please let me get finished. Thank the Lord now.
Yes.
I can wear my 32-inch bust downs and I can install them
Mm-hmm.
myself and I can do my own hair and nails. I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
worry about going there, but I love being able to go to a
Yeah.
hair salon and just being able to take time and spend time with my stylist. But now I'm skilled to do my own hair, style my
Oh,
own hair. So
okay.
a lot of people, a lot of us in the queer community have experienced that. That's that hyper masculinity
Mm-hmm.
of wanting to be able to have power. And it's also
Yes.
connected, I say that hyper masculinity for Black people is also connected to white supremacy because it's about control. It is about being
Mm-hmm.
able to control marginalized groups of people.
Right.
If it is
I,
not queer people, then it is women. You want
right.
ownership,
Yeah.
which is what we're seeing right now from certain spaces, certain podcasts,
Mm-hmm.
certain platforms where some of these hetero Black men want to be able to control. And it's just like
Right.
it shouldn't be that way. Because at the
I'll
end
tell
of the
you.
day, go ahead. I'm sorry, Dr. Justin. Go ahead.
I'll tell you. No, I was just gonna tell you two things. When I moved to New Mexico, so I'm from the DC area, so I could find a black barber
Yeah.
anywhere, like in the DC area, right? So I was like, of course, whenever I found a barber, I was like, I kind of just walked in, sat down, like, okay, I'm next. Just kind of kind of laid back and was like, I'm not saying anything, and then no smile, just like, and
Very
then your voice goes
uncomfortable.
down. Yeah, your voice goes down an octave. You kind of code switch when you're there. But then I moved here, right? And I was like, I can't find a black barbershop. I was like, I can't find a black barbershop. I was like, where can I find? And then of course, my friend said, oh, try this one. And I looked it up. And you have to call for an appointment. And I said, ooh, okay, you have to call for an appointment. So I walked in there, and it was like my barber said, "Yo, what's up? I'm so and so," and I'm like, I'm Justin." He was like, "Oh, okay," and he's like, "Yeah, your appointment number. Yeah, okay, you're 10 minutes early, but I can take you." And I'm like, "Okay, cool." And like there's like rap music on. It's like very like okay, it's very black. Oh, like I'm like okay, I feel a little empowered in here. And my barber knows about me. Like he knows everything. And this man is tattooed down. Like 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 I was just like, oh, okay. Like he's like muscular and like so what you think you want to fade? I was like, yeah, I'll just take a fade. And he's like, you want some enhancements? I was like, of course, I was like, because I'm a little older, right? So I was like, what the hell is an enhancement? So I was like, okay. So I was like, I was like, yeah, do whatever. I just said, yeah, do whatever. And I was like, I don't know what it hit. So all of a sudden, I felt this
Yeah.
on top of my head, and it felt like cold. It felt cold, and I was like, what is that?
Me too.
And
Yeah.
so, right, and then he took his card out, and like I was like, what is going on? And then he said, what you think? And he gave me the mirror, and I was like,
Uh-oh.
I look like I look like Trade. I look like Trade. And I sent the picture to my husband and he said, oh my God, like what? And I was just like, I know, right? I was like, wow. And then he hooked me up because I had to go on the red carpet in Santa Fe Film Festival the next day. And he said, I got you. I got you, man. And that was one of the first times or one of the only times I actually felt that love from a heterosexual black man that
Yeah.
was uber masculine and like so willing to accept me. And I was just like, wow, that is just one of the most amazing things I've ever had happen to me in my life. Yeah.
Yes. And that's what it's about. That's allyship. And that's another part of the conversation that Al tit for tat. I don't know if Al is there. I think he's still driving. But that was something that he also touched on in his live yesterday, along with my colleague Bubs the God, along with my colleague Deshaun as well too. That was
Hmm.
something that we touched on, which is allyship. And the question was asked, do you believe that for Black women, since occupy the space of woman as well too, um,
Hmm.
do you believe that white women can be allies? And I let loose. I said,
Hmm.
I, after this election, I don't think so. And some, yes, if you're holding your own accountable, yes,
Hmm.
but we see you. your value. We see you for who
Hmm.
you are. You voted against your own interest.
Hmm.
And I think a lot of black women and black people in general feel the same sentiment that I feel, which is we just have our reservations. We just
Hmm.
on chill mode right now. We see you for who you are.
Hmm.
And allyship, when we talk about allyship, that's a perfect example of allyship. Not looking at someone's sexuality, but just accepting them as the client. Just saying,
Hmm.
hey, I got you. I'm going to hook
Hmm.
you up. I got you, whatever you need. Another perfect example of allyship would be showing up.
Yeah.
Showing up and showing out. That's what it's
Yeah.
about.
Yeah.
Showing up and if you're an ally, stand in it. Stand up and stand in it. That's what
Right.
true allyship is.
Yeah.
And a lot of people were
Exactly.
giving Ellen Chapa backlash for supporting the LGBTQ plus
I
community.
yeah.
And they wanted Dwayne Wade and Gabrielle Union to just give up on their daughter's eye. And I'm just like, that's true
And
allyship.
right, exactly. And there was another example I wanted to give to you. It was kind of crazy. So one of the other things, like you brought up the barbershop, but I want to bring up the
Yeah.
black church. So the thing is, of
Bubs.
course, yeah. Oh, I'm gonna go there. So what happened was like there's some churches that don't are not affirming, right? They don't really see us, and if they do see us, they don't want to talk about it, or they're gonna vote against us in their own church. So I used to work for a place called I was a I was a writer for gbmnews.com, right? I was one of the reporters. So I had heard in the DC area, it's called Mount Calvary Baptist, no, Mount Calvary Church, Holiness Church or something. I can't remember. I can't even remember the title of the church, but they were known to give these these speeches. I'm going to call them speeches because they're obviously not preaching, but like they're giving these speeches that, well, if you won't want to be called a sissy, then I suggest that you act right about. So they were using words that, and then of course they know what they were doing. So what happened was there was a letter that went around from one of the congregates that said, gave it to the bishop, and it was a list of people that she thought were LGBTQ. She was outing them to the bishop. So I'm a good reporter. I'm nosy. I did it. So I went, so I went and found
God.
names and, So I found names and everything, went to my editor. I said, hey, here's a story for you. He said, did you pitch this to me? I'm like, nope, this is a story that I did on my own. He was like, are you serious? I said, yeah, let's publish it. So he published it and it went online. Baby, I can't tell you how many emails that I got for saying, I'm glad you did this, either one or two, I know who you are. So I went to a spiritual, let's just call it a retreat. It was actually a conference, and I'm sitting at a table, and I'm just like, I'm not really representing a church or synagogue or anything else like that or a temple, nothing. I'm just sitting there, just kind of like enjoying the conference, right? Because I'm a spiritual person, so I'm just enjoying the conference. And then, of course, people were sitting next to me, and I just kind of looked over, and they had their name tags on it. It said Mount Calvary Holiness Church, and I said, "Oh."
I know you didn't.
I was like, "Oh, you're from DC. You're Mount Calvary Holiness Church. I'm Justin Terry Smith. Oh, we know who you are."
Deshaun?
I was I
Al?
was like, "Oh." I said, "Oh, you know who I am?" And they're like, "Oh yeah, we know who you are. We read your article." I said, "Oh, okay. Did you like it?" And they were like, "Oh no, we didn't." I said, "Oh, what didn't you like about it?" And the thing is, they couldn't say anything. I said, because I exposed you and your church for its hatred that it actually has. And for you to actually sit up here, and of course, my friend's next to me, and he's like, Justin, 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 Justin. And I'm like, okay, okay, let me get my wine. So I got up, went to the bar, got a glass of wine, and then sat somewhere else. But the thing is, of course, the one thing is that, push the envelope sometimes. If you want to be an activist, a lot of people come to me and say, how do I become an activist? Because you've been doing this since 2003. Like, how do I do this?
Yeah.
Push the envelope, but do something somebody hasn't done before. When I came out with my journal, Justin's HIV journal, back in 2008, nobody actually had done this, but like putting their life, in front of the camera saying, I'm HIV positive. This is what I have. This is who I am. And this is what I have to go through. My medication, my costs, all those things, the depression, the anxiety, all those things, right? I did that not on a daily basis, but I did it on a very occasional basis. Like, this is what I have to do. So when I started doing that, I noticed that a lot of other people started being more open about their status on YouTube, because I was, at first, that was where I went. So they were like, "Oh my gosh, wow. So, I can do this too. I can be strong like this too. I can be open about this too." It doesn't necessarily, the fame isn't coming from being the first. It's not even fame. It's recognition. But the thing is, what you get from it inside is that you've helped other people. You've helped a younger generation that has come behind you and said, wow, I can do this too. I can be open. I can be strong. That is really important because, like you said, they're watching.
The audience is in shambles. They're taking it all in. But these things need to happen. And I'm so glad that you brought up the Black church. We just recently seen a conversation with someone, she shall remain nameless, a certain singer that just recently went on a podcast with Jamal Bryant and is now
Yeah.
trying to save face for her homophobic comments that she's made standing up on the pulpit. So we're seeing a lot of that. You're seeing a lot of people walk back on their homophobic
hmm
statements
hmm
to save face.
hmm
I find it mighty funny that you don't like being called homophobic. And then when it starts to affect your bag, that's when you want to sing a
The
different
coin.
tune. We
Right.
know y'all
And here's the
y'all know
thing.
which singer I'm talking about. I don't even have to say her name. She's
I
very
was going to say,
talented, but I don't
hmm
even have to say her name. We're not
and,
giving her that over here.
and
But
the thing is,
she got
at least
on
like
Dr.
she,
Jamal Bryant's platform, and it was like
hmm
there was no accountability. You was sat in there, and it was more so like an ego between the
hmm
both of these two. But you were saying, Doctor,
so,
I'm sorry.
but I was going to say, like, this has happened before in the past too, where people have walked back. So there was an artist that this generation may not know. Um, Her name escapes me, but she has now passed away. She came out with the disco era, and she was, like, all the gays loved her. All of us were like, "Oh yes, 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 yes!" And then she said something, and we were like, "Wait, what?" We were the ones who bought all your records. We were the ones who were dancing in the clubs to you, Donna Summer. So my thing is, like, this has happened. And so, when we stopped giving up our bag to enhance your bag, that's when you said, "Oh, you know what? I'm, for what I said, I'm sorry." And the thing is, of course, I'm not homophobic. I'm like, all right, sister girl. But here's the thing. But now, as of present day, it's gotten a little. I'm not gonna say it's got to where we need people to be, but the thing is, it's got a little bit better, because back in the day, they usually don't apologize for what they've said. It doesn't even
I know.
phase them, right? Even if it does affect their back. Now, here's the thing about now. Of course, now when you say something, it's out there. It's out there. It's done, because now we have. I mean, thank goodness they didn't have it when I was when I was being raised, because I could have gotten in so much trouble. But like, there's no smartphones back then, but there are smartphones now. So the thing is, of course, what I did was, how we catch children doing stuff, doing wrong. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I remember my little brothers were younger, and we caught them coming in the house when they should have been already in the house. And, um, but back in the day, all you had to do was get, a couple pillowcases, go down, go down, keep the window closed, but keep the pillowcases, and then just climb back up when you've done whatever you need to do when you're at the house, and then come back in, and then that's it. You're good. But there was no cameras outside your house recording you doing whatever. But the thing is, now that we
Rainbow
can
Ellen.
catch people, right? Now that we can catch artists being who they are, they're a lot more careful about what they say and how they act. Because here's the thing, that doesn't say that they're less racist, they're less xenophobic, they're less homophobic. It doesn't say that. However, it keeps them in line. However, sometimes when you think about it, the most dangerous racist is the one that's not burning a cross in your front yard. So you have to keep vigilant, people of color, keep vigilant LGBTQ people, keep vigilant Jewish people, because the person that isn't openly holding up a torch that says Jews will not replace us, a person that is not holding up a Confederate flag, a person that is not holding up some sort of KKK hood, that is keeping it in their closet, in the back of their minds, is one of the most dangerous racist people you will ever meet.
And my colleague just said something. Let me see. That part, the hog mog one on the podcast, what Jamal
What?
Bryant said that she didn't understand why she was receiving the backlash from the LGBTQ plus community. And it's not just this individual that we're talking about, but it was Juanita Bonham. And the biggest
Mm-hmm.
scandal to date, and I don't think a lot of people need to keep remembering this, the biggest scandal to date, the biggest one that had the most controversy was Bishop Eddie Long. All of the homophobic things that he has said, and then you get caught. We've seen the photos of these young men, that you had an attraction to, that you dated. It's out there, but you
Mm-hmm.
prosecute people for living and existing and walking in their truth. And if it's not Shirley Caesar or Juanita Bonham, it is Earl Carter. If it's not Earl Carter, then who else is it? Then it goes to the ex-gay movement. You have Donnie
Mm-hmm.
McClurkin. A lot of black queer men have saying, "Child bye. We're not buying
So
it. We're
here's the
not
thing
buying
about
it."
this. Here's the thing about this, right? So I'm gonna get in trouble.
They're saying behave.
Who's saying behave?
They're, that's what the comments are saying. I can't understand why white
Oh,
men, that
I
part.
can't see it. So here's the thing. I will say this. There was a lawmaker in the DC area.
Yeah.
And this lawmaker took advantage of our people, saying that this is what's important. This is what's important. This is what's important. The one thing that this person did was they did bring a good amount of jobs. They did. They did. However, like some administrations, they put their friends in different positions, but the friends did not have the experience that they needed to have to be in those positions, right? So, however, the constituents voted him back in time after time after time after time. However, he didn't clean it up for drugs. He didn't really do a lot more that he could have done for our people, right? So I was being interviewed and they asked me what I thought about this lawmaker. And I said, and I quote, he is just as ignorant as the people who voted him in. Now, I'm not going to say who this lawmaker is because where I'm from, they're going to tear me up. But the thing is, of course, we have to understand that that these preachers, they 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 are somewhat of a predatorial nature where they go in to our communities, start preaching about what they think is right. And a lot of us say, you know what? Have a point. He has a point there. He's got a point.
You
Well,
got to
you know,
just
they can't have any
mention
children.
LGBT people and they jump
Yeah.
up, they get involved. And
Yeah.
then what gets me is that we have some of our own people in the queer community sitting front row,
Right.
listening to them these hateful, mean things. I'm just like, how could you sit through that?
Yeah,
That's just like you're going into the fox's den.
yeah,
You're the hens, and
exactly,
you're going into the fox's den for the fox to chew you up and
right,
spit you out. That's
exactly,
exactly what it is.
exactly. And the thing is, of course, I know that when we were enslaved, one of the things is what they did, the colonizers did, was they changed our mind about our own spiritualities from Africa.
Yeah.
And some of them went to Africa and changed their minds too. And they said, oh, well, you can't have a man be with another man. There are tribes in Africa that predate colonization that was the norm. That was okay. That was not a big deal. But until colonizers came over and said that's wrong because that's against the Bible, that poison spread. And it spread and it gained influence. And so, of course, when we came here, it did the same thing to us. So, of course, where does this mentality come from? Where does this mentality come from? It comes from colonization, from people trying to oppress us with religion that really didn't belong to us. We really didn't want it. We were a part of other different kind of religions before Christianity reared its head into our community. And I speak the truth because here's the thing, like why do you think our community has such a problem with LGBTQ people? Where does that come from? Think, where does it come from?
Organized
Where does it come
religion,
from?
that black church. And a lot of people in the comments are saying the same exact thing. They're agreeing, they're saying yes. Organized religion in the black church. And these are conversations that I've had with my colleagues, Deshaun, Al, and Bubs. These
Hmm.
totally these things right here. What we're
Hmm.
seeing right now, and Doctor, you probably can elaborate on it a little bit more than I can. What we're seeing right now is manifest destiny. And I'm pretty sure
Uh,
some of you know what that is. It is the erasure of anything that is not white. It is the erasure of anything that is not male. And we've
hmm.
seen it happen with Native Americans. So if you go back in time and do a little research, I find it so crazy that history is now repeating itself.
Hmm. And the one thing about Manifest Destiny is that, which I'll just add on because you hit it right on the nail on the head, right? So which what I will add on is that what they did was to the indigenous people of this land is that they said this is in the name of God. So Manifest Destiny is based on God. I'm doing this in the name of God, and because God has told us that we need to come through and influence all these people, meaning oppress all these people with our own religion, and even royalty says that this is in the name of God. The name of God has told me that I am the queen. I mean, you are, but I mean, I'm not. Okay, you are, but like I can be. But like the thing is, Manifest Destiny has told me that I don this crown because this is what God has just bestowed upon me, and this is what God says it is right.
And if it's not white, it's not right. The golden age, you
Mm,
hear Republicans say, we're going to go back to the golden age. That's what they're saying. Everything that is not white or male or straight in this country, that's what they're doing. If we didn't need to know about Jesus, we didn't need to know about anything that's going on in the Bible for them. We shouldn't deserve it, right? Exactly, Deshaun. And these are conversations that I've been having with my colleagues throughout this week about manifest destiny, about the great replacement theory, about the golden age or the gilded era. And it's just like, when were they great? What times were great for us? When were
right.
these times great for us? It was great for them, but not for us.
I have two things. I have two things. So one, when they say, "Well, Jesus Christ," blah 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 blah, and I'm like, wait. So this is what he looks like? So you're telling me a Middle Eastern man looks pale as hell? You're telling me this is what Jesus looks like? This is what Jesus looks like? Okay, okay. I mean, I'm just asking. I'm just, I'm asking for a friend. But like the thing is, like, I'm like, no, this is not what Jesus looks like. Jesus is a Middle Eastern man. He does not look like this. I mean, my thing is like, even the Bible says he doesn't look like that. So, so I just don't understand where. that came from. And of course, people were like, "Oh, well, he's Jesus, so he has to be white. He can't be any other color. Has to be white." And so I had another thing, and it'll come back to me. But that's one of the things I wanted to kind of bring up. Like, okay, so okay, this is what Jesus looks like to you. Okay, no problem. He's a white guy. All right, well that's false, but okay.
Exactly. They all have power, and what every
Oh,
ethnicity makes him in their own image. Exactly.
now
But
I know
our
what I want to
Jesus
say.
has hair of wool and eyes that
Hmm.
are like fire. Remember the episode of Good Times where they hung up the portrait of Jesus and what
Yes,
he originally looked like?
yes.
They said he had hair like wool. That's what our
Hmm.
God looks like.
Yeah,
Theirs has
and I'll tell you,
long hair, fair skin. That's theirs.
right, which is, I, I digress, but okay, they can have that. But the thing is, the truth will always set you free. So I was sitting on a panel, and there was two black people, and all the rest of there were three white people, and the two of them were they were very much elderly, right? They had probably a good 20 years on us. And one of the white guys, he said, you know, I wish that times could go backwards, fun times like the 1950s. And and I was on the panel. I went like this. I was like, he goes like, back when times were fun. I said, fun for who? Fun for who? What are you talking about?
Right.
And he was like, well, and then he
Caught
slowly
itself.
but surely,
Yeah.
he's like, ooh, ooh, you know what? You're right. And I said, okay, cool. So now we got there, right? So my thing is like, when it comes to, you were talking about allies, right? Sometimes you get a white person that is willing to listen and to really willing to say, you know what? That makes sense. And I'm glad that you said that from your perspective, because I would never have thought about it unless I listened to a minority. I never would have thought about it unless I listened to you. And And I'm glad you said something, because I've actually had those reactions, aha moments before, where it's like, wow, I did not know that. I was not informed. I was not educated. I was not aware. Here's the thing about this. You can make someone aware. You can educate them. And the thing is, the best thing about ignorance, it can be reversed because you can educate yourself, or you can be educated and reverse that ignorance. However, if they're not willing to, do not waste your breath. Do not waste your time. Do not waste your energy. Because if they're going to be that way, they're probably going to be that way for a very long time. And it's not going to only be you that's going to try to change their mind. You've already done your job. My thing is, I get tired of black splaining. I get tired of bi-splaining. I get tired of juice splaining. I get tired of it. I get really tired of it. I was a professor. I know what it means to be an educator. I sometimes get tired. Sometimes, you know what? This is not my job. You don't pay me for this. So I'm tired. I'm like, you know what? Let somebody else black explain that to you, because you know what? I am 45 years old. I have lived a very good life. I'm even if I die tomorrow, God forbid. I'm sorry, I shouldn't forbid. I'm good. My kids are good. My husband's good. I'm good. However, don't let me die trying to black explain something to somebody. Like let me
When
let
they
me do
should
like
know.
let some
You should already
right.
know.
Right. And some people just don't. And because the thing is, some people, I take into account how they were raised, where they were raised, who they were raised around, who they were raised by, what their social economic status is. Like you have people in Mississippi still voting the way they vote. Right. I'm going to be very careful about
Florida
this.
too.
Voting the way they
Florida.
vote.
Yeah.
Right. And the thing is, but Mississippi is the poorest state in the country. So let's talk about them. Right. They're the poorest state in the country, but they vote the way they. Well, I remember a reporter, I will not name her name because she's actually very famous, said that she went and interviewed these people. and it was when Barack Obama was running. And they said, well, I think Republicans are going to help fix my teeth. She asked, sir, how long have you had those teeth? How long have you had bad teeth? Oh, well, like 30 years. Like, but you keep voting for a Republican because you think that they're going to fix your teeth. They're not going to
Look
fix your
what
teeth,
they're
sir.
doing
You're
now.
going
But look
to,
what they're doing now.
yeah,
They're
yeah.
using your
I mean, I'm just saying,
taxpaying dollars to uh, fund private dinners for the crypto Bitcoin, for his crypto or his Bitcoin. They're using your taxpaying dollars,
mhm,
and your teeth are still rotten. They're removing fluoride out of water. They're doing
mhm.
all of these things to cause harm to you. So I ask you, to the people who voted and vote the way they vote, is America great yet?
I hear you. I have to be very careful about what I say, only because of my other 9 to 5.
You
So,
You
but
can, but I
you
can
don't,
say it
you could
unapologetically because I
say,
know a lot of people. Yeah, a lot of people feel the same sentiment that I feel. You
mhm,
voted this way, but
mhm,
it's not doing anything for you. They know which groups to
right.
target exactly, and they go after the most marginalized, which are black, which are queer, which are, let me check because I don't want my phone to die on us. I'm gonna have to. Oh, it's on 9%. So let me land the plane like my colleague Bugs will say. I don't want it cut off on us, doctor. But this is what I'm saying. You voted against your own interests. It's not doing anything to better you. It's bettering them, but it's not going to better you. And your teeth will still be rotten. Your children will go without health care. You won't reap the benefits of anything from this administration or any Republican. And as Darren said yesterday on the show, Republicans have always been for the rich, the ultra rich, excuse me,
Mm,
ultra rich. They've always been for the ultra rich. They've always been for the embetterment of themselves.
mhm,
Whereas the other party, Democrats, they try to help you, but
mhm,
you want to sock it to the libs. You want to sock it to black people. The hatred and evilness in people have caused them to be reckless in their own actions, and now we're all paying the price for it, unfortunately. So before we wrap, because I don't want it to cut off, this conversation is so good. Doctor, I'm going to have to bring you back for a part two. I have an opening for the 30th if you would like to come back so that
of,
we can do a
of,
part
of
two.
like of this month, tomorrow.
Yes, today's the 29th. We can do a part two if you like, Doctor,
Oh
whatever you
wow.
prefer.
I'm gonna have to wait a little bit because it's a little my schedule is a little further out. But yeah, I definitely want to do a part 2. I'm totally down.
Yes. So before we wrap, what gems would you give? Because this conversation was so insightful and a lot of people are taken away from these things. We touched on a number of things. What advice and gems would you give to our brothers and sisters in the queer community? Because it seems like, again, people are tired of being beat down on, having their rights bulldozed over, especially trans
Hmm.
women, my trans sisters out here. We're seeing rollbacks for that, but we
Yeah.
have people on the front lines like a T.S. Madison, like a Laverne Cox, like a Hope Giselle, and
Hmm.
was Blossom, and so many others that are out here using their platforms that are speaking up against this, that are saying, no, we're not going to sit
Hmm.
here and be silent. We're going to talk about it. What advice would you give to them during these times?
Stay strong. Here's the thing about what's happening with us right now. Right now, we are definitely being threatened. Right now, I think that our whole community needs to stay strong, come together instead of kind of separating us out. Because what happens is when they start separating us, they'll pick off whatever part of
As we're
the community that
seeing
they
now,
want to pick
people
off.
being snatched up and stuff, and
Yeah.
divided.
So,
The
yeah.
first 100 days. Yesterday marked his first 100 days, or this week marks his first 100 days. 100 days of
Mhm.
chaos, tyranny, and danger unleashed on America. That's
Right.
that.
So also a little bit more nuggets is that we know that this is a very the mental health is definitely one of those things that is getting influenced right now. It's decreasing like our health when it comes to mental health. So seek the help you need. Seek the help you need. I know some of you don't have insurance. There are other places, like there are places that you can go to be able to help you, like coachpositive.com. Like we have a coaching model, which is a little bit less expensive than our counseling model. So, we do definitely want to make sure that our mental health is straight because we are a huge vulnerable population when it comes to this because we have been definitely put down throughout the years, still being put down. So the thing is, of course, that definitely affects our mental health. Keep your physical health healthy too, physical body healthy too. Like there's a lot of people that will be depressed that won't stay in the house. Go for a walk. Appreciate what's around you, even though right now you may not be in a mental state to be able to say, oh, I should go outside and just at least have the sun touch my face. Take something out of the day that you can take pride in, whether that's that pride flag in your closet. Take that out, feel it, hug it, know that you are part of a strong community, and know that your community will always persevere because we have been through the ringer, baby, throughout the years, and we are still here, and we will always be here.
Absolutely. And we have the energy and the blood of our ancestors, the figures who came before us, the Marsha P. Johnsons, the Celia
Yes.
Ramirez. We have Baynard Rustin, James Baldwin, so many of the revolutionaries that came before us that are still out here. And their legacy continues on. When I
Hmm.
seen that they was going to take the T out of Stonewall, that burned me up. I was so angry. And I talked to my colleague Bubs
How
about
can
that.
you?
Bubs, I think you need to have Doctor on your platform. I don't know if he's still here or not, but this live will be saved, and I will send you over his information, Doctor, so you can check out
Thank
the conversations
you.
we've been having on the platform. But I want to leave you guys also with what the final thought of what Dr. Justin just said, and it ties into this. The final thought of the day is tough situations build strong people. Each challenge is a lesson for each and every one of us. So think of this as an awakening for certain people because people are waking up and seeing that you voted for the price of eggs and you're not getting what you voted for. You've been duped, you've been hoodwinked, you've been bamboozled. This man played you like a fiddle, and now you are starting to see it. People are starting to wake up, they're starting to become more aware, and that is a great thing. We need that because cults are real, and we touched on cults last week with Conscious TV. So definitely go back and check out that conversation. But we're seeing people break and see, oh, it's not the trans people, it's not the drag queens, it's not them, it's them that's got our money. And you're seeing them in the town hall saying, hey, give us our money, stand up to him, do something.
Mhm.
Uh, Hopefully, this can be the change and shift that we need is people to wake up, and we need everybody to be awake. They want to take away DEI and all of this and that, but guess what? Jamie Foxx said it best, and I'm going to keep quoting him. As much as they try to erase our history, guess what? We'll go and we'll make some more. We'll go and we'll
Yes,
make some more. We've
exactly.
got Queen Bee on tour. She's one of the most award-winning women in music history and Grammy history, Beyonce. So you kind of have a distraction. The Met Gala's next month. Find your joy in the midst of chaos.
Yes,
I'm telling you, that's to all of my brothers and sisters in the queer community and to our allies as well too. Make sure that you are finding your joy. And Doctor, thank you so much. I wish we
no
could have
problem.
extended the conversation, but I did not want it to cut off on us. So let people know where they can follow you and check you out.
So you can go to my website, www.justinterrysmith.com. No dashes, no dots in between, just justinterrysmith.com. And you will find all my social medias and all my current projects that I'm working on, especially A Life for Justin. The documentary is definitely meaningful and definitely wants to put out like the awareness of PTSD and what veterans go through when they go through trauma.
Yes. All right, fashion dolls. Okay, tomorrow is Wednesday. Thursday, Kip Tribble joins me, so we'll be back Thursday. So make sure y'all tune in, Fashion Dolls, an all new lineup for the month of May. I love you all. I want you all to be safe. This interview will be uploaded to Style by Stevie Daytime. And special thanks to all of my colleagues, Deshaun, Al, Tit for Tat. We have Kwame Speaks. We have Bubs the God. A special thanks to each and every one of you for showing me so much love and support. And again, a very special thank you to Dr. Justin Terry Smith. Please make sure you guys go and check out his documentary. Please make sure that you go out and check out his website. Please go and support Black queer spaces. I love you all, Fashion Dolls. And again, this makes interview 789. We are well off on the road to 800
Wow.
shows. So your girl has been working. Thank
Yeah.
y'all so much for love and support. And I will see y'all Thursday. Take care, everyone.
Bye.